Welcome to another Motoring Top 10. Each week we give our panel of experts a new subject and they produce the top 10.
This week we're looking at the top 10 convertibles, but first we need to define a convertible in the context we're using. For example, the MGF is a convertible because it has a fold-away hood, yet many will rightly describe this as a sports car.
So we've narrowed the target down. There must be at least an attempt at rear seat space to get into this top 10 without being marked down. You get high marks for being stylish and desirable though.
Why, thank you, Ginny.
I was talking about the cars.
Oh, well, without further ado, let's get on with it.
Renault have exploited the versatility of its Megane chassis to the utmost. It's hard to believe that the Scenic and the Megane convertible are related, but they are.
The reasons it languishes down at number 10 are obvious. It scores very low in the desirability stakes with the others here. That said, look at it individually and there's much to commend. It doesn't look too bad either, drives nicely and is generally inoffensive unless of course you have really bad taste in colours.
This market though, the badge counts for a lot, and the Renault, I'm afraid, just doesn't cut the mustard.
So far as badge is concerned, our number 9 fares little better. The Peugeot brand has carved a reputation as the GTI Kings though, and the 306 convertible carries one other very special badge.
For this 306 was designed, engineered and built by none other than Pininfarina, famous for those lovely Ferraris and the Fiat Coupe.
There, Ginny. This is more than a 306 with the roof locked off. Pininfarina have actually extended the rear overhang and designed new rear lights to balance the looks. It's this attention to detail which sets these Italian maestros apart from the herd.
The hood is a work of art and folds away with a beautiful action. Hood stowed away at the drive is every bit as good as you'd expect from a Peugeot, although there is some mild chassis flex just like the Megane.
It is still a Peugeot though. No matter how impressive the work by the styling experts is, it scores badly in the desirability stakes that we talked about at the top of the programme, hence a lowly 9.
Now it shows just how good our list is that the Volkswagen Golf Convertible is as low as 8 in our top 10. But this has to be one of the best family cabrios about.
It might have the badge, but even the most dedicated Volkswagen fan would have to admit that it lacks the visual grace of the Peugeot 306 after Pininfarina had a play with it.
Build quality and that VW badge do count for something though, and the scuttle shake evident in our previous 2 is absent here.
I think the biggest letdown on this car is the way that it drives. Don't get me wrong, it's not bad, but it's just okay. Remember that it's based on an early 90s car and there have been tremendous improvements to the handling, the suspension and the general drivability of Golfs. The ride is not as smooth as you would expect, but there's no scuttle shake from what is an ugly looking roll bar behind me.
It also has the street cred to find it wholly believable that the Golf would be as comfortable driven around Monaco as Manchester.
As you'd expect, the hood is as slick as anything in our top 10. And hood up, you'd not notice the difference compared with a tin top Golf.
Number 7 gets here by a combination of being the new kid on the block, adding desirability and having an ingenious roof.
Mercedes created a folding hardtop for its SLK. Peugeot brought this within the price range of Joe Average for the 206cc or Coupe Cabriolet.
Roof up, you're driving around in a stylish tin top. Folded down, and the wind ruffles your follicles.
Ingenious this may be, but the major downside is that this does raise the centre of gravity a little, and you'll find the 206 leans into corners and generally feels less composed.
Peugeot described the car as a coupe cabriolet, and in coupe form like this. There are a couple of occasional seats in the back, but you wouldn't want adults to sit in them for too long. And with the top off and folded back into the boot, you effectively lose half your luggage space. So if you're into long distance touring with the top down, then certainly don't want 2 kids in the back, because you're going to need all that space for your bags.
It does remain impressively solid, hood up or down though, and if you tour rather than race, the handling deficiencies will not be apparent. In fact, you have to drive pretty hard for this to feel anything other than a very well sorted car.
One request for Peugeot though, when it comes around to facelift time for the 206 range, please do something about the nasty hard plastics in this range. They detract from a very attractive fascia and cheapen the whole look of this interior.
Go Ginny, go Ginny!
We step up a league with our number 6. The Saab 9.3 picks up where the old 900 left off and gives an aspirational cabrio to the executive who likes to stand proud of the herd.
I can speak with some authority on this, but the Swedes, as a nation, tend to be every bit as efficient as our friends from Germany, with an added sense of fun, and this is reflected in the cars they build.
Naturally, the 9.3 to go for has to be with interior leather, and with Saab's legendary orthopaedic seats. It should have the excellent 2.3-litre turbocharged engine, which is smoother than a gigolo's chat-up line, or even one of Dave's.
Then you have a car to go to the golf club in and hold your head up high. Unfortunately, although the Saab brand gets stronger all the time, you still have the confusing state of being in limbo. Not quite up to Audi, BMW or Mercedes, but with more cachet than a Ford or Volkswagen.
Saab love their turbos. They'll stick them on anything and everything. Estate cars, saloon cars, pencil sharpeners, toasters, they've all got one, and this is no exception. You even get a little dial to tell you whether the turbo's spinning up to speed, but don't expect any kind of old-fashioned whoosh, because there isn't any. It's a light pressure turbo. So the good side of that is you don't get any lag either. You're not sitting here waiting for the acceleration. It feels like a pretty powerful but normally aspirated engine.
Underneath lie the heavily modified components of nothing more exotic than a Vauxhall Vectra. Although it has to be said that the engineers in Sweden have made the 9.3 into an infinitely better car to drive. 6 then is definitely a fair position for this Viking Raider.
It's amazing how the two major Swedish manufacturers stick together. For our number 5 is the Volvo C70 Convertible.
Just as Saab have climbed into the desirability stakes and joined the GM group, Volvo have done likewise, joining the Ford empire. So what makes this Volvo more desirable than its compatriots?
Well, for a start, this convertible is based on Volvo's glamorous C70 coupe rather than a saloon, which kind of kills the argument really, because there's little more to say.
Peter Horbury, Volvo's head of design, has transformed Volvo's image virtually overnight by doing away with straight lines and introducing the sweeps and curves that you see here.
No car displays this transformation more clearly than the C70 coupe that this soft top is based upon. This model merely ups the desirability stakes another notch.
The front-wheel drive handling will surprise most, Volvo taming the engine's immense torque with aplomb.
Somehow, though, we suspect that most owners will prefer to waft along in leather-lined luxury, letting the serfs know their place, and we wouldn't have it any other way.
Here in the heady heights of number 4, we have a car which could have aimed for the top 10 only a few years ago. The stylish Audi Convertible.
Based on the old Audi 80, this model somehow transcends the criticism the saloon used to suffer. Now, with the refined 2.6-litre V6 under the bonnet, this is a car to really be seen in.
The build quality is everything you should expect from Audi. It's peerless, with shut lines you wouldn't get rice paper between, and that hewn from solid feel all Audis possess, making this a very special car indeed.
Ever dreamed of touring the continent on hot, balmy days? Well, this is the car that evokes such dreams. It matters little as you cruise along that the chassis is antiquated by current standards, that the shape has been around longer than a Bob Monkhouse joke. Hold on, we're losing the plot a little here.
Which is precisely why Audi is so narrowly pipped from a top 3 place. There are 3 very desirable models ahead, which are just looking that little bit fresher. But up here, the margins are narrower than the panel gaps in this elegant machine.
Join us in part 2 for our top 3.
Welcome back to the top 10 convertibles. Back into our rather more affordable top 3. And in at number 3 is one of my personal favourites, the BMW 3 Series.
It is very hard to find fault with any BMW, let alone this one. Perhaps the Audi pips it for build quality, but then Audi are virtually obsessional.
Of course, the 3 Series to go for must have the straight-six engine, preferably the 330. This 3-litre unit has to be one of the finest engines around, and it gives this car a huge chunk of character.
Whilst there's no doubt this is certainly no M3, and on paper the M3 would have it beaten, in day-to-day life, from one point to another on country roads, I reckon my money would be on this. It would certainly be the easier drive to get anywhere in a hurry.
The interior has a distinctive layout and good quality materials. There's nothing to fault, which in itself is annoying when you're trying to assess the car for you lot.
One characteristic you'd expect to find in nearly all of the bigger 4-seater convertibles is scuttle shake. No, it's not a 70s disco dance, it's actually to do with the rigidity of the car. Think about it, you chop the roof off, that's a big old lump of tin that used to be there to brace it, and as a result, without it, the whole thing can twist and shake, which makes it very difficult for the suspension to cope. Well, in this, they've actually improved it by 20% over the previous convertible, which is already pretty good, so it's not at all bad. That said, there's no way is it ever going to be as good as the tin top, coupe or saloon.
With rear-wheel drive and BMW's traditional skill with the chassis setup, this soft top doesn't disappoint on the road either. And whichever range is fitted, the whole range has ample performance to go with it.
Yet again, though, we have to knock a few marks off for desirability, because the 3 Series convertible is based on a saloon and can't compete with a coupe-based convertible in the drooling stakes.
So to our number 2, which wins over the 3 Series precisely because it carries the extra glamour that a coupe has over a saloon. the Mercedes CLK brings the glam of the more expensive Mercedes models within the reach of us mere mortals.
It is also very attractive, which helps, and shares its underpinnings with the outgoing C-Class saloon.
We've mentioned build quality a lot in this programme, and that's something that comes naturally with the likes of BMW and Audi. And of course, the truth is you can't really go wrong with a Mercedes either.
Unless you want to have fun behind the wheel, that is. A Mercedes is a car to be seen in, a car that will last forever. They've never really been as involving to drive as, say, their BMW rivals.
Performance in a straight line is impressive though, and the interior has that air of solidity that you'd expect.
But the steering is about as dead as a comedian's first night, and the handling never inspires confidence at the limit.
But that though is to miss the point completely. Mercedes know better than anyone else that their customers are likely to want to cruise around. If you want to be a boy racer, Dave, stick to the GTIs.
Quite right. This car is for the more mature person who'll appreciate the engineering around them, who want that special glow that you only get from having the three-pointed star on your bonnet.
Why, David, do I detect a smidgen of maturity there? At number 10, Renault's Megane offers convertible chic to the average man. Unfortunately, the badge carries as much cachet as a weekend in Bognor.
Mildly better on the badge point, but not by much, we have the Peugeot 306 Cabriolet at number 9.
Number 8 is the ever-impressive Golf Convertible, as much a motoring icon as its GTI stablemate.
Number 7 is the new 206cc. A clever folding hardtop gives this one novelty value.
At number 6 is the Saab 9.3, a classy soft top with a bit of an identity crisis. Popular in the States though.
Number 5 is another classy Swede. Who'd have thought a few years ago that Volvo would have a convertible people would covet? A future classic?
Maybe our number 4 has reserved its place in the classic archives. The Audi convertible has outlived many contemporaries, and it has an air of grace about it.
Appropriately, our number 3 is the BMW 3 Series. A beauty to drive with classical looks. We could only mark it down for being saloon-based on the glam front.
At number 2 is the Mercedes CLK convertible. Based on the delicious saloon and adding the glamour of a soft top, this will surely be a future classic.
So to our number one. And we
Cheated.
a little with this one. The Porsche 911 is way more expensive than all the others in our top 10, so we should mark it down for that.
But there's no denying that it's streets ahead on glamour and desirability, so we marked it back up again.
It's also by far and away the most fun to drive, so it's an obvious number one. And before some smartass tries to say it's got no back seats, the 911 is officially a 2+2, which means there are seats there. You just need fold-away kids to fit them back there.
What can we say about the looks? Only somebody without a heart could fail to be stirred by Porsche's finest. Inside, it's very businesslike.
But we don't care about such things. The 911 is all about driving, and motoring hacks have been writing poetry about Porsche's legendary flat-six engines for years.
The challenging handling of a legend has been engineered out in the latest version. You can even have a four-wheel drive version if you so desire.
Of course, in this price range, there are other exotic cars which could topple a 911 from our top spot.
Did somebody mention Ferrari?
The difference is that you can realistically use your 911 every day on the commute into work, as well as blasting off on a cross-continental thrash.
So there it is, our undisputable number one.
And traction out of corners is simply astounding. You really have to experience it to...
David,
Ginny?
we've done it now. I think they've got the message.
But the...
Say goodnight, David.
Good night, David.
Make sure you join us next week on the Top 10 Auto Show for the Top 10 Coupes.